Welcome to Don't Shoot the Messenger with Thomas Shute, Kundalini yoga teacher, spiritual guide, and author. The podcast where we get real, go deep, and explore what it actually takes to live from the soul. Each week, Thomas sits down with some of the most inspiring people he knows. Friends, mentors, creatives, and change makers to talk about healing, purpose, and the kind of transformation that doesn't fit in a quote box. If you're into spirituality that's grounded, conversations that spark something, and guests who aren't afraid to get raw, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm super excited. Today I have one of my good longtime friends since early on in my healing journey and spiritual development and awakening. I used to live stream on this app called Periscope and do readings for people. And I used to sell crystals, and I had stumbled across Emanuel's Periscope account, and he was doing these free energy healings, and I was super intrigued. And the minute I went on the live stream, we instantly clicked, and now he has a huge healing practice, emotion and body code practice. He's one of the top rated energy healers probably in all of the entire world, I guess. He's spent many time with the founder of Emotion Code. He's the co-founder and chief healing officer at Inside Out Institute, and also the host of Healing the Healer podcast with over 160 episodes focusing on helping healers, helping other healers. So anyway, without further ado, I'm here to help or introduce Emanuel. So welcome, my friend.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And yeah, you are here to help me too. Like, I can learn a lot of things from you as well. And I'm inspired by the work that you do. I know you've been a very deep spiritual seeker. I know you connect with a lot of people. I know you've built a community yourself. So I definitely honor your journey as well. So I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you're a super amazing energy healer, but also like I'm so inspired by the way you run your business and still maintain integrity and humility and service to people without, being greedy or anything like that. Like, your work is super phenomenal. So I'm happy you're here. But I wanted to ask you, like, I always like to say this because everybody I interview for the podcast is always like, there's an origin story between how I met them, So I always find it funny. I think it'd be cool if we could talk about Periscope, because I think that's probably is that where you started with kind of energy healing and starting that practice? Did it start on Periscope? Because that's where I stumbled across you there.
Periscope was one of the, it's so funny saying that word because now they're out of business or whatever, but yeah. It's like, that is one of the venues that I was going out there just to like do a free session. And it kind of like put me on the spot a little bit because I had to deliver. And usually typically, if you remember, I was working with lowering down pain, and 80% of the symptoms that we're dealing with, according to like what I've studied, is due to trapped emotions or emotional baggage. And so when I started, for me, I always felt like even a bridge with men, for example, is like men hold a lot of pain in, like I feel like women, they talk about their pain, but men we're taught to kind of suck it up, don't talk about it, and kind of just roll with the punches. And so I was even looking for amazing people like yourself who are like, just maybe looking for a breakthrough in some ways. But during that same time, though, I was like texting friends and family saying, hey, I'm opening up my practice. Would you be open for a free session where I help out with emotional baggage or physical symptoms? And I probably got like only 1% to say no, because that's kind of weird to say no to that. Like, it's kind of, yeah, it's almost like if you say no to that, then you really have a lot of trapped emotions and we really need to help you out, So
yeah, or we can't help you.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah, I love it. So, I mean, can you share like the moment when you realized that your gift in healing wasn't just like a personal thing, or that you really felt it was meant to be shared with the world? I mean, you already said like, obviously who would say no to free healing, but what kind of, happened in your path where you were like, wow, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing? Because I mean, this is like beyond your career. It's part of your lifestyle. I mean, I see your posts and stuff. I mean, this is like, it's like Kundalini yoga with me. Like, it's a part of my everyday being. It's
Right.
not like my career, you know?
You and I both don't know what clocking out looks like.
Yeah.
So it's become a lifestyle. It's not just, and I so agree with that. And I think one of the things that was key for me was when my friend long distance worked on my heart wall. And for those listeners who are like, what is a heart wall? We may have to back up and talk about trapped emotions, but I'll try to keep it simple. Basically, anytime your heart feels heavy or it feels like it's going to break, your body has a safety mechanism so that you don't get what they call broken heart syndrome, which is where the heartstrings or the tendons inside the heart stretch so much that the heart collapses. And chiropractors, or I would say no, cardiologists probably 20 years ago would say, oh, it's just stress, or excess cortisol that's causing this. But I think they're becoming more awakened now that maybe in the last few years they've said that no, actually grief, someone passing away, broken relationships, stress at work. There's many reasons why your heart would feel that tension and it wants to break. But what Dr. Bradley Nelson found out is that the founder of Emotion Code, he found out that your body has a defense mechanism against that. So it places a trapped emotion, which is the size of a tennis ball to a cantaloupe, and it kind of scoops a little bit of it and places it over the heart, and it protects your heart from breaking. And you lived another day. That's the good news. The bad news is you created a heart wall now over your heart. And this has many symptoms, and I'll talk about it more. But the main symptom is lack of clarity of your mission and purpose. And so, again, I don't know about everyone else who's listening to this, but if you have that feeling in your mind where you're like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or is this not what I'm supposed to be doing? If you probably have a heart wall, and I could probably muscle test you long distance and find it. But that doesn't mean that some of you maybe already found your mission, but then you don't feel that flow in there yet, or you don't feel that like your heart sort of singing in the process. That's also because you have a heart wall. Maybe mentally you found your mission, but your heart hasn't confirmed it yet.
Mm, wow.
So that's kind of when it went for me to answer your question. It's kind of when it went from my mind to my heart. Is when I got
Mm.
my heart wall cleared. I picked up the Emotion Code book, Confession. Okay, here is anyone ready for a confession? Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna be judged, but I now you see on YouTube I have like 700 videos on Emotion Code, Body Code, but I'm the guy that picked up the book probably 7, 8 times and would drop it and whatever until my heart wall was cleared. Then I couldn't get enough of it, and I would stay up for webinars up from like 2 a.m. All the way to 3 a.m. And my ex-wife at the time kind of like knocked on my shoulder, was like, hey, like you're up at like 2:30 a.m. like it's time to go to bed. And I was like, wait, it's 2:30 a.m. So I started losing track of time, which is a good sign that your heart is very reverberating what you're supposed to be doing. And so that's when it became like mind to heart, and it became a passion of mine, and I just wanted to get more skilled at it.
Wow. I like what you said about, when you're losing track of time, it's proof that, or it's a sign that that's what you're supposed to be doing. That makes a lot of sense. It takes a lot. I mean, in the work that I'm seeing with people and what I'm doing with people, trying to get the concept of mind to heart is like, it sounds great. It makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but to have the visceral feeling of it has been an interesting thing. I've had that feeling of being able to drop in, and there's a lot of things that can induce it, whether it's like some sort of plant medicine, whether it's emotion code. But I've had it happen in Kundalini twice, and I'm like, every time it happens, I'm like, whoa, I'm actually operating through my heart space, not my my mind, which is crazy, but it's beautiful. Like that's truly, I feel like what we're supposed to be, like doing in a way.
Yeah, and because we're so controlled by time, and at the end of the day, we see all these beautiful quotes, time is an illusion and blah blah blah, and it doesn't become reality until you actually feel through your emotions. And a lot of people, like myself, I had a side job. I don't know if I told you this, was called professional stuffer. I used to stuff my emotions just really deep into my body, and so when you do that, you kind of get out of the heart space, because you're basically saying that I'm not allowing what they say, like Yahweh means to breathe in and breathe out. I didn't allow my body to breathe out my emotions. I was always holding my breath, and so that's why, like, even breath is so sacred in itself, but even beyond breath is we notice everything is kind of ebb and flowing. If we look all around us, there's just this ebb and flow. The forest kind of burns down. Like nature abhors a vacuum. All of a sudden, the forest starts growing again. But also, like if nature goes that way and it's amazing, that's how Mother Nature works. Then how come we're not imitating it with our emotions? We're not fully allowing emotions to process, and because of that, that's why we might feel stuck in life. Whether it's
Mm,
relationships, whether it's abundance, we tend to get stuck.
mm. Yeah, it's crazy. I was just teaching a prosperity course. Well, I'm still in it with a group of people, and I was talking about how receiving is an active frequency. It's not a passive, like, oh, I'm just receiving. Like, and people think, oh, I give too much. And I'm like, sometimes you're actually like you're actively receiving, like you're trying to obtain things. Like that's such a powerful concept, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I love how when you do like imitate someone who's not there yet, but semi clueless and learning something, they always start off the sentence with "oh," like it's like, "Oh, I thought I was," it's just so funny how you add the "oh" there. I do that too. It's like, "Oh, I thought I was," especially with like people that I work with. Sometimes like they'd say, "I've had 10 years of." Psychologist talk to me, and I'm like, yeah, but if you think about it, like with marriage counseling, how many times have you heard horror stories where after you meet with the marriage therapist, the worst drive home, like basically World War III happens in the car ride while they're going home, and it makes a lot of sense because you're basically triggering two clients, and then you think they're going to become peaceful on the ride home when what it should have happened, and I believe this is the future. I'm going to prophesy real quick, is that a psychologist should meet with you and then they should go to a separate room. They should meet with a body code practitioner. That practitioner should work with both of them and say, I wonder what energies are surfacing to your body right now while you spoke with the psychologist or the marriage therapist, and then let them drive home. It would be a completely different ride, but we're still in beta, or we're still in old school ways of doing things.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we're kind of spinning our just in circles.
yeah. That's actually a really powerful concept. This year I started going to therapy just because I have mentors, but people work with me consistently, and I was like, I need a supervisor,
Yeah.
and sometimes I my therapist is amazing and I do feel sort of good afterwards, but it is an emotional roller coaster when they're kind of surfacing things and I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was there. And then I have to go and kind of stabilize it and do the work. And I have my practices, but seriously, that would be an amazing, uh, you know, complete package to have that clearing after things like that coming out that, because they're feeling it at that point, but then they're not processing it because they're
Yeah.
just
And
reacting.
definitely. And I think also, like, I mean, Brad's showed it on stage where how real a trapped emotion is. He'll actually, I don't know if you've seen this, maybe he made a YouTube video on it, but like what he'll do is as soon as he finds a trapped emotion, let's say he's working on someone's neck, he'll want to share sometimes the reality of how these, because someone can just theorize and just say, hey, there's balls of energy in your body that haven't fully, released. But what he does is he says, okay, I'm gonna ask your body which quadrant is this trapped emotion located in? Is it the bottom left, top right, according to this person? Let's say it's like near the right shoulder. So then what he'll do is he'll kind of move his hand towards the body while pushing down on someone's arm doing muscle testing. And as he's going closer and closer to the body, as soon as he touches the trapped emotion, the arm goes down. And it shows that you finally touched the trapped emotion. And then he'll slowly move his hand back, and then the arm gets stronger and stronger. So he'll say, yeah, your trapped emotion is sticking out right here. And that would be kind of a really cool proof to show people who, go to the therapist and go, nah, I don't have anything surfacing in me. Come on, energetic spheres of energy. But I would love to go there and prove to him like how real it is by doing that method.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just saying, hey, this is more real than you think, man. And in fact, your invisible world is kind of dominating your visible world. you know?
That's the funny thing about people that are so skeptical. I've kind of gotten to the point in my life where I really don't care if people believe in these things that we live by, but
Yeah.
they have so much more faith in not wanting to see it that it's
Right.
like it's actually like you said, it's dominating their entire being of like living this life because they're like they don't want to see it. It's like it's controlling them. it's like suffocating them. It's crazy. But if you just were to like soften your heart and be like, oh wow, this unseen world or whatever you want to call it, this energy world is is very real, and it's great. It's amazing to know that there's things there, that
and
ultimately are there to help us grow and teach us, even if it is a trapped emotion. I mean, like, it's there so we can work with it, and clear it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, I know you do like, herbal medicine work and things like that. Sometimes it takes that journey for someone to finally see the unseen. But I mean, it's if you're so into science, it clearly says that it's based on the five senses, and the five senses only go so far. It's like 1/1000th of what reality is according to the five senses. So that should not scare you. That should be like, wow, there's so much more to this fleshy body that I have. And we are, like, as they always say, we're spirits having a human experience. Like, we should get to that point a lot faster. I wish I would have gotten personally to that point a lot sooner in my life than like life happening to me in hardcore negativity ways that it like almost like behooved me and pushed me over the edge to become spiritual. It's almost like a forced spirituality due to the fact that I'm suffering. That's unfortunately we have thousands of years where it's like we wait till the end of something or the brink of something before we actually start changing.
Yeah. It's crazy that it takes people that push, and it's just like, why, but even I mean, it happens on a microcosmic level in my life too, sometimes, where I have the awareness, but then I'm like refusing to see like the truth, or I'm like too clouded by my own lower, frequency vibrating emotions. And I'm like, I just don't want to see it, or I can't get out of the cycle of like being addicted to being resentful or angry or these kinds of things. It's wild.
Yeah, and I think too, I want to give your clients a lot of like support and just say, like, look how far let's say you've done no energy work or you've only done just a minimal of it. Like, look how far you've gone in life. Sometimes I like to kind of give that perspective. Like, look how far you've gone. Look what you've attracted so far, just on your faith, on your vision for yourself, on willpower, on creator blessings, and just know that, like, what if you can multiply everything that you enjoy in your life tenfold if you just look more inward. So that's more of the invitation. See, I don't always work with the broken. I work with people that are doing very, very well in most areas of life, but there's always just one area where it's like, I don't know why I'm stuck here. But it's like, how do you control that your great, 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 great grandmother went through a divorce and that energy is stuck in your body and you don't know why you fear a commitment or marriage? It's because you have this programming that your grandmother was not trying to hurt you with that fear, was trying to say, be careful, that when you do have the potentiality of getting divorced, and it broke my heart, it hurt my life. And that's why it got passed down. It's the whole rat mother and rat baby experiment. You've probably heard this before, but like the mother would get shocked. First of all, I'm totally against these type of testing. Like, who does these testing? There's a special place. I sometimes think about it, like when I go two birds with one stone, I'm like, who made that quote? Like, two birds, one stone. Why are you hitting birds? But anyway, so that's a whole nother seminar. But anyway, so the mother, for example, gets shocked in this maze, and they pull the mother out, and then they would put the baby there in the same exact maze, and every time there'd be like a baby of a baby, and it kind of goes down about 10 generations deep. That little baby would get stuck in that area that the mom got shocked in. So with humans, it can go way up there, like 38, 40 generations deep. Like we literally pass down the fears of our life down to our children in our generational family. But isn't that interesting how, like, again, the child's like, wait, something happened here that I feel off in the section where my great 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 grandmother was shocked at by someone who was experimenting. So again, we have to look at epigenetics, like the fact that we do swallow not the sins, but sometimes the sins. Yeah, swallow the sins or swallow the pain that our family went through, and it may be holding you back.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe.
Just maybe.
Do you work with that? Speaking of the generational, carrying on of those emotions, do you work with like past life stuff and being Christian, right?
Right.
That's something I do want to touch on, two of those topics. But they kind of go hand in hand, because I came from a very religious background. You know this. We've talked about this.
It's in your book too.
It's in my book, yes.
Yep.
And how does that work with the past life thing? Because my Christian upbringing, I had been, raised Catholic and Christian, and both of those are big naysayers of past lives. So can you touch on that, and then also tie it into maybe how that can affect, just like generationally, like carrying on trauma from other lives?
This is a great question, and it's actually a very, very hot topic right now because, unfortunately, in the zeitgeist, people are noticing patterns in your life that make no sense to your current reality. So this is where it's like overall, I'm trying to remember the percentage. I believe it's 28% of America actually believes in past lives. And we have an 85% are Christian, so 28% is not a small number. That's actually a pretty big number. And I think the reality is because unfortunately, again, there's certain things that will happen. For example, how many times have you traveled someplace and you go, I feel like I've been here before, right? There's no there's no explanation to that. There's absolutely no explanation to that. Also, I feel like I've met you before. Like your voice sounds familiar, and you've never met this person. So there's all these kind of like non-understandings that we in our core consciousness, we're like, what is going on with this? Now, what I love about the Savior, Jesus Christ, or some people call him Yeshua or Joshua, whatever you want to call him. I heard he has a preference for Joshua, but what's really interesting is that about him is that he's willing to share the truth on multiple layers, and there's deeper meaning to his scripture. Some people will read a verse and they'll be like, oh, that means this, but there's like stratospheres below that, where it's like actually what he meant was this, and what he really meant was this. But you only hear according to your spiritual level on the map of consciousness. So for example, Dr. David Hawkins did that map of consciousness, like understanding the map of consciousness. It tells you which kind of level you kind of mainly generally live your life in. 200 to 300 is like you're around, courage, pride, like around that area. 700 to 1,000, you're more in the enlightened realm there, where Buddha was and the Savior was. But what's interesting is that they filter life very differently from the way that we filter life. Now, we have moments where we go 400, 500, and we have these spiritual experiences, but our body tends to go back to our spiritual set point. So again, when you're reading the scriptures, that's why it's always good to ask, may the Holy Ghost like enlighten me while I read this. So because you need help. You can't do it on your own. You can't just be like, I'm going to go there and figure it out myself. Like with my logical brain, I'm a fish. I'm going to understand the ocean. Watch what I do. And it's just like, you have to ask for help from above, from someone from the Godhead. And then when you go in there, it is very interesting. Like for example, a very clear example is Nicodemus, who is a follower of Jesus, but he was kind of like what they call in the closet rabbi follower. And if you remember, there's a really interesting time in the scriptures where he's asking all these questions. And one of the main questions he asked him was about baptism. But see, you have to look at the context of everything. Like you have to look at like who's saying this. What year is this? What does he believe in? What did Jesus believe in? Like, and a lot of people again forget that we're looking at words that are thousands of years old with the context of modern eyes. And this is where we get into trouble. It's like Jesus was a Jew, so he has a lot of Jewish customs. He's very well aware that Nicodemus, that they do baptisms. But why does he get so perplexed about being born again when Nicodemus was very familiar with baptism? It's not like something that was foreign to him. So again, he's looking for something different. Jesus is teaching him reincarnation on the spot, saying you must be born of flesh and water and blah, blah, blah. And one of the cool things that really makes it stick out that a lot of Christians kind of run away from is when he says like, it's like the wind. So this is right after he's talking to Nicodemus. It's like the wind, you don't know where it comes and where it goes. So that's a very bizarre metaphor for baptism. That makes actually no sense.
Yeah.
The baptism. So what was Jesus teaching? He says, it's kind of like the wind, like, from here to there, you don't know where it goes, similar to a spirit that when it passes away in another body, you don't know where it goes. And so it goes where it listeth where it goes is kind of, I think, the exact verbiage. Same thing with a spirit being born again to a different body. So again, a lot of Christians try to be like, we don't know what that's about. Or maybe you feel the Holy Ghost in different places. They try to,
or they just read it and they're like, oh, Jesus said, there's no, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as you were saying Jesus is a Jew, I'm like, wait, from my Jewish studies, Jews believe in reincarnation. Nobody knows it. Nobody talks about it, but I mean, unless they talk about it, but nobody, they just forget the fact. They're like, that's a pagan concept and that's demonic. And it's like, no. But wow, you're giving me full body like chills with the whole the wind scripture. I don't like.
And there's more to like there's more to like in my faith that I have the prophet that restored everything, Joe Smith. He actually went through the Bible to comb through things that's saying that this isn't written right, or someone was trying to hold information back. One of the cool things is that in one of the translations, Jesus clearly said, that's missing out of the Bible, that that Elijah is John the Baptist. That because Elijah is John the Baptist, just a flat out real sentence right there. And again, even people from my own faith are like, whoa. It's like, what is that all about? Is it talking about the mission of John the Baptist is kind of like the spirit of Elijah, kind of like the spirit of let's say like Pontius Pilate. Let's say like, Thomas, you're a conqueror. It's like, would you say like, Thomas is such a conqueror, like the spirit of like Nero or the spirit or whatever? But it wasn't like that. Jesus was being as clear as day, saying that no, John the Baptist is Elijah. Like Elijah is John the Baptist. Like he's come back from the dead to usher my kingdom in, first coming as a servant, and then later on coming in a different way, the second coming. But yeah, so it's just very fascinating. Again, the more you read, there's just layers of it. And I think it's kind of, you also have to understand the early church too. See, in Catholicism, they when the Romans basically adopted Catholicism as their global religion, what were the teachers there saying to create more fear in society? Hey guys, we can't tell people there's a second chance. Like this is it. They had, and then so by using sort of a fishnet of fear-based religion, we're going to get them, we're going to let them like the Romans more and kind of like bring it into the culture. So it was kind of, so again, it's like there were specific archbishops. If you Google this, you'll find this. I'm not making this up. There's specific archbishops that started shutting that down. Another thing that they also shut down around those times is that we become gods. Is that was actually a very common Christian thinking with the early church fathers. That isn't something that was just, like now the holistic field, they go like, hey guys, you're a goddesses, you guys aren't the originals. The originals were actually, first of all, Jesus Christ, but then the originals were also the first fathers. And then as soon as the Catholic Church kind of came in, they slowly said, you do not become a god and there are no other lives. And then the fear-based religion started infiltrating, so.
Wow. Wow. I feel like we could go deep on like, or I would love to hear more about all of that, because that is, I love Jesus, and that we sometimes go deep with that, but that just, I feel like my brain is, I feel like I'm seeing clearer, like, whoa.
Yeah. And again, see, here's another thing I want to share too, is that I do regression hypnotherapy. And again, like I have to also be careful what I say, just due to my faith and things like that. But at the end of the day, I have to live my truth, and the truth is that once you go into a past life yourself, then there's no denying that there is past lives. Like, we hear people talk about it in books, Brian Weiss is a good one. Dolores Cannon is a good one. There's all these great authors, but nothing will ever penetrate your heart and mind more than when you go into your own past life and figure out why there's a certain theme. I'll mention a client that I have, but I'm going to keep her anonymous. She has moments of depression, for example, and she went back. She found out that she was this man in another life, and she was cheated upon, and this person's like a very, Christian type of person. And she actually cussed in front of me while she was in her hypnosis, going like that effing, I was like, whoa, that is not sound like her at all. But in that life, when she was that person, that wasn't out of her norm. And he basically got cheated on, he stayed single most of his life. I think he did find a woman at the end, but there was a period of time where there was absence and loneliness, and her depression, which she has no idea where it came from, came through those periods of time where he was lonely. And so it was still in her system. There was still forgiveness that needed to be done. So I had to go through the whole process of like, who do you need to forgive? What contracts did you make? What oaths did you make? Let's talk to your guides. Did your guides feel like there was something else in that life you needed to situate? Or did you fully accomplish your mission? Okay, let's go to a healing room with your guides. I mean, there's a whole beautiful process that you can take if you go back in time and start regulating things that basically are now dysregulating your life currently.
Wow. So that was going to be another question I had for you with hypnotherapy. Well, you kind of answered it, but maybe you could touch on it more. Like, do you integrate the body and emotion code and hypnotherapy? Can you do that together, or do you just have it as another additional, service within your practice?
Great question. So technically you can, if you want to, like if I want to do, and I've done it before, I think once, where I would do like a body code session, but it's interesting. Like you and I are both used to living multiple lives and hundreds, dozens. And what's interesting is that the plan of salvation is really like either you're a very advanced being and there's no guides waiting for you because you don't need a guide because you're advanced. For some people, there's no guide waiting, but most of us, me included, I will have people come up and I don't know who my guide is, and I have to kind of figure out who she is. Is it a he? Is it a she? Is it something else beyond that? It could be something else in a different world.
I have that problem.
Yeah. But when you go into a hypnotherapy state, you become very clear on who your guides are. When I do sometimes work with clients, something beautiful sometimes happens, is that one time I felt these hands on my head, and I was asking for help before we did the session, and it was like I started just kind of doing the session with her. I was on Zoom, and then all of a sudden these like hands cut my head, and so when I felt that, I was like, okay, so. Okay, so is your mom alive? And she says no. Okay. Was your mom very like religious or spiritual? And I was kind of muscle testing, because you can muscle test this type of information. I was like, I feel like it's a female. So I asked her the mom, and I'm like, did your mom ever give you blessings like on your head? She says, yeah, all the time she would put her hands on my head. So I was like, okay, yeah. So I'm feeling it over here. I'm guessing she's kind of a very protective woman, and she's basically saying, take care of my daughter. Make sure you're doing this right, and she was very emotional about that because she would do something like that. But it's ironic that it was over on my side. Like you think it'd be over on her. Hey, receive the healing. It wasn't about her. It was about like, who is this man that's trying to help her make sure he's inspired while he's doing this? And so we're very much interconnected with our soul family, which you'll find out if you do regression, you'll find out like, who do you keep repeating lives with? And usually your partner that you have, you might have had a past situation, but it was maybe a different dichotomy. For example, maybe, or family dynamic. For example, your partner could have been your father in another life. He could have been your son in another life. So you kind of keep switching roles. And again, this is why as a Christian myself, if we're going to become like our Father in heaven, like if we're going to become like our Creator, doesn't it make sense that you live multiple lives to experience? I mean, how does a loving parent look over the whole entire world and go, I know what that orphan feels like in France. It's like, I know what that woman prostitute feels like in that area. I know what that it's like, you can't do that. You'd be a very uncomfortable God if you had to take care of this beautiful family on earth and everyone's going through different things, unless his plan was perfect for us to live multiple identities. And then that makes more sense.
Wow. I'm loving this, like past life becoming, goddess, God energy. Like I never went into it at that level. It's so fascinating to know that, because I do believe that, it's all God, right? And how do you justify suffering or somebody dying so early? And, it's easy to say, well, that was their plan, but like how do you say it to someone's whose child, passed in a freak accident, God forbid, it's like, you can't just say that, but it is the truth. But what is the purpose of this, and it's fascinating to understand that concept of becoming like the creator,
And for that person who lost their child, first of all, that is very hard. You need to do a body code session, which there's a really specific session that works amazing, which is called an attunement. So when you do an attunement, I help a lot of people with grieving. Over the last 10 years, there's all types of grief, not just someone passing away. There's grieving of relationship. There's grieving that you lost a job that you loved. There's grieving with suffering for 6 years because you kept getting rejected by men. There's grieving, like you grieve for that woman who couldn't find love. So the thing is, like, write a list of your top 5 things of like, I would love to finally bury this energetic hatchet. And so a good one would be, for example, there's this woman that I worked with, and unfortunately, in 2 weeks, she had a baby pass away in front of her. Well, I don't know if this was like in school parking lot. They were like directing, the cars and stuff, and like a car accident happened, and like a baby passed away in that accident.
Oh,
But then also like her, I don't know if on Netflix there's a show where this husband murders his wife, and like
yeah.
at first he's like I'm looking for her. I don't know where my kids are. I don't know, whatever. That's crazy. So that woman that I was working with, that was her friend. And at first it was like they were all sold that the husband was like this seeking guy who's like miserable that couldn't find her. Later on found out it was him that did it. And so she was shocked. I believe she got the shock factor when they found out that he was the main perpetrator. And that other week, the baby passed away too. So that's 2 weeks of pretty crazy news. So and what I saw at the time where I used to do Zoom calls, I don't do Zoom calls anymore, but when I did Zoom calls, she went off of Facebook, and she stopped marketing herself. She was a really good like network marketer, and she was like blank, like her Facebook was just dead, like nothing was going on. I'm like, that's weird. So when I worked on her, I said, let's do an attunement. I have complete peace with me witnessing a baby pass away. And I checked her body. This is fascinating. You can check your body by muscle testing to see how much your body believes in that statement. So her body said, like, I'm just going to throw a number like 19. You can even go to the decimal point, 19 point what? And muscle test will be 19.93621. I mean, you can go to the 100th decimal point on seeing how much someone has peace with something. And then what you do is you basically use the body code and say, okay, what energies are causing her to have only 19.347 peace? And then you move it to 100%. And I did that for her for 2 attunements, the baby and also the murder that happened with her friend. And literally the next day on Facebook, she was live. She was already marketing her stuff. It's a way of burying the past. And so there's a lot of hope in that. If your baby passed away at 7, you have no idea why, you can actually go into regression hypnotherapy and see like perhaps there was a plan where that baby, if it didn't pass away, certain beautiful things wouldn't happen to you in your life that opened up new doors, opened up a new spirituality for you, opened up more healing than usual, that you wouldn't have gone on a journey of growth if there weren't certain traumas that had to happen to you.
Yeah.
And you were kind of betting on it. You were kind of betting on certain things happening that were tragedies.
I know people who have had like, parents that killed themselves, or, just crazy things, and then they lose faith in God. So it's like, oh, they're throwing the towel in. Why would God allow that to happen? And it's like, not to be selfish, but go inward and see what it is in your path as to maybe not why, but why this is happening, or how this is going to change the trajectory of your life for goodness or for more light. It's not, of course it's easier said than done, but go inward and use these modalities.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do a body code, do an attunement, do a regression hypnotherapy, find out the mission of what your son was, you could probably find some very, I when I was getting certified, when I was getting certified as a regression hypnotherapist, some lady was able to kind of go before she was born and see who her son really was. And her son right now has like autism and just um, it's so hard to raise this little one. Loves this baby, but just struggling. I think he was like 6 or 7 years old, but he was actually able to see her as this amazing, non-describable angel that like was looking basically to grow in a body to even grow even more, and it was part of her soul family, and for basically him to like talk to this angel and like communicate, because there's a couple of theories here. For example, in I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Michael. Yeah, Michael, Dr. Wise. He was saying, for example, that certain portions of our spirit are left on the other side. So like I know it sounds kind of crazy, but let's say
Like
you
soul
pass.
fragments, are you saying? Like,
Yeah, like sort of like soul fragments. Like for example, like if you let's say Thomas, I was like your mom, whatever, let's just say, and I pass away, right? But maybe I've already moved on to another body, and you don't even know it yet, but I've like, you've mourned me, but I've moved on to another body. A section of my spirit, a portion of it, almost like the way he described it is almost like a holographic version of my spirit could still meet you when you go into the spirit world for a little bit and
mm,
communicate with you just as if you would communicate with your mom. It's not a weird figment of your spiritual imagination when you're going over there, but it literally is like a holograph version, just trying to communicate with you, be like, hey, I'm just letting you know, I went into another body, but I want you to have peace here. I want you to heal here. I want you to learn from your guides here. You're going to be going back to Earth again. So it's kind of this really cool communication. So uh, again, there's more wisdom and order on the other side. Again, my favorite quote from my church leader, Joseph, he said something like, why is there so much, when he was a kid, he was like 6 years old, he's like, why is there so much chaos on earth and order in heaven? And he would like look at the stars. And I think it's very key that these energy healing modalities aren't here just to make you feel better. They're here to give you special sacred knowledge about yourself that no one else can tell you unless you go within. And no
mm,
one can take it away from you. No indoctrination can take it away from you. Nothing, because you've experienced it. See, religion was never meant to be just taught. It was meant to be experienced. It was meant to explore theophanies, like think visions of angels and things. That's how they
yeah.
actually ate and feasted. But unfortunately, we're in a world where we're just like, oh, you have to follow what I say. What I say is what it is, and that won't pull you in that spiritual strength that you have inside of you.
Yeah, that's also so fascinating. You said that when I was in Utah, I had you're in Utah, no?
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah,
St. George. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had seen a seraphim. I think it was a seraphim, and it
Wow.
was the scariest thing of my entire life. But it's a gift to be able to see those sort of things
Yeah.
because we're supposed to be able to have these interactions. I was
Yeah.
terrified, but nothing prepares you for it. But it's a gift. It's a blessing. But that's really what we're like that. And I like they said that's what religion, was supposed to be is
Yeah.
to be able to, have these sort of spiritual experiences, not be told how to have them. Like
Right. And religion, unfortunately, gets a very bad rap. My defense to religion is that, there's so much people saying like, it's all over unfortunately, like the holistic world of like religion is control,
yeah,
spirituality is everything, and I have to, and then they look up to Jesus. And then I have to just take a second and be like, guys, I love your quotes and it feels good. It feels good. But you have to understand that you loved a religious person. Like he went to the temple with his doves to go to sacrifice, in the Feast of Tabernacles and the Festival of Lights. Like this dude was ingrained. He grew up as a Jew, and a lot of the beautiful Jewish customs, for example, going to the temple and the Day of Atonement and the pray 3 times a day. Like, are you doing even slightly of what Jesus was doing? He knew there was a Father in heaven. Do you pray to a universe? Do you pray to a Father? Like, there's a reason he was living, like basically leaving breadcrumbs of like, follow me actually meant follow how my practices were. And a lot of
yeah,
people, again, it's
yeah,
a lot of people just love the fuzzy buddy Jesus, but there's a lot more depth to what he did, why he did it, when he did it. Here's a really clear example. You know, my favorite story of Jesus in regards to compassion is when Lazarus died. And it's the shortest verse in the scriptures. It's he wept. That's it. It was just like he wept. That nothing personifies a loving father in heaven than the son who says, whoever, he said this verse, he said, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. He
Mm.
wasn't saying like we're the same. He's just saying that like he would have done the same thing if he was down here. And I'm like the walking form of it. Now a lot of people like to put that into a Trinity format. I don't believe in the Trinity. I believe they're three separate heads. But like I said, like he just says, it's almost like if I were just like my dad and he was like a great carpenter, or he was a great woodworker or whatever, and you saw me doing woodwork, it's like dude, the son's just like the dad. Like he's just the same. So he was saying the same thing. But what I love is that Jesus understood that in that time, um, for example, if someone passed away, they had a thing in the culture where if you raise somebody from the dead, or you claim to do that, but it was like the second day, they thought that the spirit of the person was still around the body around that time. And
Mm.
so basically they would do that for 3 days. For 3 days, it's like, oh, it's not a miracle. It's like the third day, it's like still around the body. Like it just went back. It just went in. It wanted a second chance, right? Jesus was well aware of that Jewish sort of custom that they believe that. So this is why he prolonged his time to wake up Lazarus, is because he waited. It hurt him. He knew he could go the first day and bring him back, and he loved him. And he was a disciple, a very close disciple for many reasons, but he waited on purpose to prove that he actually raised him from the dead. So he had to wait those days. But then we have Mary and the other Mary all come in, and they're just crying to him, going like, "Why did you wait so long?" You see, and that just represents our our human nature. It's like how many
Emergency
times,
and yeah.
yeah, like how many times have we asked, God, why are you waiting so long? And it's very similar in that story. It's like, guys, if I don't raise them up in a later date, it won't have so much of an effect. And so with people who are waiting for your listeners who are waiting for a prayer that's been unanswered, there's such a bigger purpose to why he's holding it. Is he's already heard it. So that
Mm.
first of all, the debate of whether he's hearing me or not, let's just put that to rest. He already heard it. The question is the way he's going to answer it, you'll enjoy it a lot more if he does it on his own time. You won't enjoy it as much if he gives it to you right away. But anyway, the part that I said, like where it says he wept, is like most of us wouldn't take the empathetic time to mourn with people. We'd be like, hey, I got the power of keys of resurrection. Let's go, Lazarus, get out of that rock. What are you doing there? So there's so many lessons there in that verse, just the fact that he cried with them. Like we have to become a people that even if we know we're about to heal them, even if we know we can take them out of from the dark to the light, that we need to cry with them, that we need to mourn with them. And that's what the creator would do. And so it's just, there's so many lessons there. And then obviously
Wow.
he goes up there, he cries with them, but then he says, okay, time to raise Lazarus up. And if you notice, he tells people, move the rock. Someone needs to move the rock. See, Jesus could have moved the rock, but he didn't. So again, this is another lesson of like, there's certain things that we have to move. There's certain things that we have to do for the miracle to happen. They also said, "Hey, take off the linen from Lazarus." He could have gone like this, and the linen would have like fallen off of him. But he says, like, someone's got to do something here. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm going to
Yeah.
do. So again, there's just I don't know. That's one of my favorite verses, and it could teach us if whether you're a healer or whether you're receiving healing, that number one, your prayers are always answered. Just wait the delay. There's wisdom behind it, and also there's certain things that we have to do for the prayer to actually come into function too.
Wow. That is powerful. It's so powerful. I love hearing these stories too. Not stories, but these teachings and lessons. They are stories of things that happen, but for sure. Like
Sorry if I went off on a tangent about
no,
Jesus.
no,
It's like,
I like that's I knew that was going to happen, but I'm here for it. Like I love it. I love it. Excuse me. Just to like, what do you think is the most? If all of your clients' bodies could speak, what do you think the most thing that humanity is, or people that you're working with, just to kind of tie it back to your practice? And I want to make sure that you're getting
yeah.
People,
Sure.
I mean, you have tons of videos and information on all of your pages and podcasts and social medias of what emotion code is. But if people's bodies could speak, what's the most thing that people need, that you think that they need, healing on? Not that anybody's not, okay, but yeah. Also, you're muted for some reason. I don't know what happened. There
Okay, I'm not muted anymore. Okay.
You're back.
I know it's like, what is this? What is the secret of life? By the way, you're muted. So doesn't that happen all the time? I swear. Tell me if I'm wrong, Thomas. Like, how many times have you had a conversation with someone? It's like the most important conversation. All of a sudden, the service is just not really working.
Yeah, or I just taught an amazing class with my private group, and I didn't record it, so I had to do it all over again the next day.
Love it. But anyway, a friend of mine said that he had a theory about that. He says, like, people on the bad end of the spirit world, they have to all be engineers. They're just like messing with our technology, so we can't transfer good information and light. But anyway, what was interesting, I'd say the biggest thing is, like, I long to understand who I really am. So I feel all our bodies are really craving for, like, an identity discovery. And the way we do that is we have to know that we're emotional beings that are producing emotions, which then you go on your healing journey. We also have to know that we're not just your identity now, and that you've grown over many lifetimes, and that this is who you are currently, but who knows who you'll be next. And what are you doing spiritually to fulfill your mission here, so that when you go to the other side, the guide's like, you did it. You did exactly what you said you do, and we're proud of you. We've been cheering you on for the last couple of decades, and that's what you want. You don't want to be going over there and be like, why did you just get rich? And that's like all you got. Like that's all you got. The yacht, you got everything. But it's like, that this life was for you to love unconditionally. That's like the last thing you did in this life. Like, now you have to go back and you have to be another person and know what it feels like to be not loved unconditionally, so you can feel the pain of it. It's like, we don't want that conversation. Not, the guides would never say that, because they're always very comforting and very loving about it. But I'm saying, like, on a more harsher love tone, it's like, they say it. They say slave owner this life, slave the next. King in one life, pauper under the same kingdom next life.
Yep.
Why is that? Because everything you do, every thought you do, you have, every action you take, it really, really, really matters. It matters on a huge, infinite reasoning why it matters. And we have to, like, wake up from this dreamy 3D world where it's like, I just go to work and just do it. Like, no, like, I could do things behind closed doors. No one will see it. Like, we can't live like that anymore. We have to say, no. I heard once said that integrity is being the same person you are in your city, in your home, and behind closed doors, like having true integrity. But again, how many of us actually match the same person in those three levels?
The authenticity, like being authentic. I think, it's absolutely hard, but I feel like that's the highest form of vibration. I mean, I don't know, you study the charts a lot, but that to me is like it. And it's hard for people to truly be authentic. Like, I mean, I try to be I'm very crazy. I try to be as crazy as I am to you, to everybody. I mean, there's, sometimes I'm calm, but I try to be myself. You're muted again. Yeah.
I love it when you are yourself, because like Charlie Chaplin said, everyone else is taken. But the thing is that when I see you do your periscopes, whatever, like I can tell you're very comfortable in your skin, and that's really what it is that you become a spokesman to others to be comfortable with your own skin. Like, we've only got this body right now. Like, we got to feel comfortable in it. If you don't, life can be very challenging. But for me, you're like a spirit animal, probably for so many of your for your listeners and your community. That's like, look how comfortable he is in your skin. And and of course, as a practitioner, I've seen you in vulnerable situations, and I've posted stuff on Facebook where I'm in vulnerable situations. But I have to post that because I'm letting people know I am not a gold statue. Like
I
I
yeah.
go through it, you know?
I tell my private, I don't like to call them clients, sometimes they're students, whatever, they're like, how many hours a day should I meditate? And I'm like, if you think that I'm doing that, then I'm not. I was just out last night. Like I try to post that I'm out, or I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some guru. And, like, it's so funny because, like, sometimes I wear a turban and sometimes people are like, why, you look like I'm like, we wear a turban to secrete our cranial muscles. It's not about looking like we're a guru or,
Right.
I'm not putting on a show. I'm literally just the same person with it on. And it's not a decoration. There's the science behind it. We do a specific meditations that are recommended to be covering and secreting your brain like that. So it's like, it's just funny how, I thank you for saying that you're like a spirit animal. I try to just be like, just be yourself. I mean, people are going to, I for so long, I didn't want to do private clients or do mentorship with people because I was like, they're not going to take me seriously because I'm so young. And I still have that kind of belief, but okay, I am young. They might not take me seriously, but they're not going to come to me. Either way, that person's not going to come. So it's like, why am I going to sit here and be like, let me just wait till I look older and I'm more mature before I start, charging people for my services? And it's like, no.
Well, the thing is too, I think the in regards to the youthfulness is that it should be looked as a, wow, he's young, not like, oh, he's young, and I think it all depends on people's security of themselves. Like, does really talent have an age to it, qualification, and it doesn't. Now, again, this goes back to past life stuff too. Would we mock Mozart or Beethoven for playing so well eloquently early? Before, in my earlier Christian life, I was believing that, yeah, they were working in the spirit world before, kind of like working on their talent. But now that I kind of know about past lives, they've been musicians multiple lives, probably dozens and hundreds of lives. And that's why a 5-year-old can pick up a piano and rock it like it's nobody's business. It makes a lot more sense to genius. Like, the word, we use the word genius so easy. What is genius really? Genius is just someone who has wakened up their talents that they've acquired over multiple lifetimes. That's all genius really is, in my opinion. So, but so again, why, if you understood more about yourself, that we have multiple lives and that God gives us talents that no one else can sort of duplicate, you should be very open to you, who's a young person, to be able to exude your talents to the world. Like, and if you don't, then there's some insecurity with you, which you're mirroring yourself. You're saying, why wasn't I talented when I was younger like you? Is basically there's some sort of weird, strange insecurity that can be worked on using the body code. Just saying, that we need to kind of look into.
Yeah, people do not like getting old. Like, I mean, I haven't gotten to the point. Recently, I've been looking at myself in the mirror and going, "Well, I don't have, my face is starting to get older." But I'm not like, I'm kind of enjoying it. But people that I talk to, like, they're always like that do praise my age, or they mention, "Oh, you're so young," and that's great. But I'm like, well, my friends are not. I don't have just like, I'm not hanging out with just my age group. Like, I have friends that are in their 70s that I have spent hours drinking coffee together and having deep spiritual conversations. I mean, they're some of my best friends. Like, yeah. But it's not. I'm like, I try to get it very clear. It's even on the back of my book, like, you're ageless, you're timeless. Like, there's.
Sure.
I'm not looking at I'm not like, oh, nice to meet you, Emanuel. 45. Like, it's like, I'm not.
Right. Hopefully you don't. Yeah, I was really hoping. I was like, maybe he's judging me. I'm 43. 43, by the way.
see.
Yeah, 43, and I've been using anti-aging since probably 28 years old. So hopefully I don't look 43.
Yeah,
but
you don't even look over. I would say you look like you're in your 30s. If I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
But who's judging? Who cares? I
just gave you a plus. I gave you a plus 1 or 2 as being even a cooler spirit animal for sharing the truth of my younger age appearance. So, but yeah, it's again, age is just a thing. And what's beautiful thing is we've aged before. Again, one of my favorite, I'll share this with your group here, is that one of the most powerful questions I ask people when I go on to do a regression, and I go to I go to the womb regression. So that's one of the, some people don't want to go to a past life. They just want to do a womb regression. If they do a past life regression with me, I automatically take them to the womb before we go, and kind of let them sort of sense what it was like to be in their mom's womb. One of my favorite questions I ask is, why did you choose to come here? Like, what's your reason for coming here? And usually it's just one quick sentence, like learn how to forgive. Or it's like to be able to not be distracted by the outside world, or to love myself unconditionally. It's like, there's nothing, you never hear like, I was here to be a teacher, I was here to be a farmer, I was here to, like, none of that stuff matters in regards to your spiritual growth. But one of my favorite things to say is, why did you choose your parents? And that's a beautiful thing to ask. Why? Because most of our trauma comes from our childhood. But the trauma is worse or severed even more when you think that you're a victim of your upbringing and environment. But what if I told you, or even beyond that, what if you experienced that you were the one that chose them for soul growth? So you could see how it's like, it's all about mastery of your identity.
Yes.
You can't become a master of your identity if you feel like even now to this day, however old you are, that like, I didn't choose my parents. Like, look at these terrible people. But I'm telling you that your spirit, your conscious brain wants safety, happiness, easy, whatever. Your soul, your subconscious, your spirit wants growth, and it will get it any way it can. Even the abusive father, even the mother who's missing, even absent parents, even if you were adopted, your spirit's like, yep, that's exactly where you need to be to grow.
Yeah, I love it. I was just going to ask, like, what's your most advisable spiritual truth to give people on like a final note? And that was like, perfect. It all comes back to bringing the focus back to yourself, I think. And it's not a selfish thing when you're doing it. Like you said, I think the word is mastery. It's all about mastery. And I think that's also kind of what Jesus was here to teach us, but it got lost in the translation or whatever. And that's also what a healer really, that's what we kind of do. We kind of remind you that it's your mastery program and path. We're not like magic wizards. We are, but but we're not doing the work. We're not gonna do it for you. We're just facilitating it for you. And yeah. So if you had any last minute things you want to say, that a statement you would like to share, kind of on a final note to, what's one
send us away
everyone should hear? Yeah.
Okay, so I would say, whoever is listening to right now, if you're hearing my voice, just letting you know that you have a creator. I'll even say this: you have a heavenly Father who loves you very, very much. And even though you might have gone through some hard times, you might have gone through some disruptions in your life, nothing can prevent this unconditional love, like dew coming from heaven to you. So you need to know who your identity is. And again, I consider myself and I would love to broadcast myself as a Christian energy healer, but I love my Buddhist sisters. I love my Islam sisters. I love every religion, whatever you believe in. Even if you're agnostic and you're atheist, I love you just as much as I love my Christian brother. And that's the way it should be, But I'll share this one powerful quote, and I'll end it with this: is that, and again, I apologize and I don't apologize if it has Jesus to do with it, but it just kind of runs in my core. But he said something. There was a quote that said, Jesus never had an identity crisis. He knew who he was before. He knew who he was when he came here, and he knew where he was going. And when you're that liberated, then you can serve. And so for those of you who are listening, service equals happiness. but you can't serve at your highest potential unless you know who you are. And the Savior did it. Like he knew where he was, where he came from. He knew who he was. He knew where he was going. Only then you are liberated. So that's why I'm saying like these healing tools that, Thomas and I provide and things like that. Again, we're not the deal. We're not the deal. Our goal is to help you to find out who you were before, who you are now, and where you're going more, because we care about your spiritual progression. And that's what a true healer does, is we care about your spiritual progression and we want you to be your own healer. So yeah, thanks for having me on here, Thomas. I appreciate you and everything you do in the world, and appreciate your light. Appreciate like that you're someone who's willing to be vulnerable, when you're willing to show your joys and happiness. Like people need more transparent healers like yourself out there. And so thank you so much for being that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for always being down to like work together and stuff like that. I'm going to link all of your sites and stuff like that down below. Do you have any other like recommendations on how people can find you? I mean, I'll put your website and your Instagram and stuff, your YouTube. I'll link the podcast as well so people can check out your amazing podcast episodes. And yeah, any other way they could, or how they should reach out. He's booked out, guys, but it's not too late to still, and your wife also does sessions as well, right?
Yeah, she does more of, she's more into biofeedback. So she like scans people's voices, sends frequencies to people's homes. So she's more of the frequency queen. I'm more of the energy healer, regression person. But yeah, I'll give you a really good website too, if you don't mind. I'll just, this one is just, if you want to get a free healing every Sunday. So every Sunday I have a free healing. And it's like just for being a part of the platform. And it's haveempathyandlove.com, which is kind of like, stands for heal, like haveempathyandlove.com. And it's free to join, but every Sunday I do a very grounding 12-hour healing just being a part of that platform. Also, that's where I announce when I do group healings as well. So if your community wants to join that group, then they can be updated with when I do these group healings. So absolutely.
Yeah, I was actually a part of an amazing week in one of these healing solar. It was a solar room.
Solar rooms, yeah.
Yeah, it was super awesome. So yeah, I'll link all that stuff. Emanuel has amazing like groups, sessions, everything, and I have experienced all of it firsthand. And we've been together since I think I actually found you when I was 14 years old, which is weird as hell that I was 14 on Periscope without parent supervision, but obviously it worked out.
You're maturing gracefully, though. You're maturing gracefully.
Now, oh my God, that's 10 years ago. I'm 24.
Yeah, I'm on a 10-year career run. You must have seen me. You saw me probably the first year when I finally came out there, probably just shaking skeletons over here, just like scared what people are going to think of me. Yeah, I was very critical of myself back then. I was just like, what are people going to think? And like, somebody would make a comment, I'd be like down for the count for like 30 minutes. So yeah, you saw me on the come up. So yeah, but you're as bright as ever, and yeah, I'm so happy with all your growth that you've been doing.
Thank you so much, Memo. I see the same in you. So thank you guys so much for listening. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys all in the next episode. Have a good rest of your day.
That's a wrap on today's conversation. Big love and thanks to our guests for bringing the wisdom, and to you for listening with an open heart. If this episode moved you, made you laugh, or helped you see something new, share it with someone who needs it. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review or shoot us a message. We'd love to hear what landed. See you next time on Don't Shoot the Messenger, where spirit stays grounded and real ones rise.